This is my worm farm. I cleaned it out today. It consists of 2 drawers, medium to large size. One is designed to hold the beetles where they can mate and lay eggs, and then the eggs hatch into little tiny worms. The other is designed for larger worms, adult worms. That's where I basically dump the egg drawer into the worm drawer so the worms can grow. So I keep the drawers on my shelf here, and you'll notice I have a fan in the back that runs all the time, and it just slowly moves air through the drawer system to keep the drawers dry. And ever since I've done this, I've never had a problem with mold, mildew, bugs, anything. The drawers stay really dry, and I think that also slows down the breeding process some. So my farm is a little slower than it used to be, and that's a good thing for me because I just don't need to produce that many worms, but I always have them on hand. Okay, so I had 2 drawers this morning. This is one of them. This is where I had the eggs. This is essentially the nursery, and I had it set up just like this. I had these egg crates on the side, standing on their end, in this drawer. And in that drawer I noticed some large worms, a whole bunch of smaller worms, and so I knew it was time to move it forward. So what I did, since I had 2 existing drawers, is I basically dumped the worm drawer. This was the worm drawer. It had a lot more substrate in it, because again, what I typically do is once the nursery needs to be cleaned out, like say every 8 to 20 weeks or so, when I get some adult worms, I dump the whole nursery into the worm drawer and then clean out the nursery, basically set it up again, and then when it's ready again, I dump the whole thing into the worm drawer. And by doing that, the worm drawer gets fresh substrate. It's just loaded with eggs and new worms, and so the worm drawer keeps getting a little thicker with substrate, and I don't have to clean it out. But so maybe every 6 to 8 months or so, the worm drawer needs cleaning out, and that's what I actually did this morning. So this actual drawer was the worm drawer, and it had substrate about, I don't know, an inch or so, and it was dirty. It just needed to be cleaned out. So I did, using a big old bowl sifter that I have, a couple of buckets. You get out most of the frass and the cornmeal, and then the hard part is getting out all the bigger chunks, all the dead carcasses and worm shells and all that stuff, and ending up with this. All the worms I can get, I set aside because I'm going to feed them tonight. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And even in just the few hours that they've been pulled out, a lot of them have pupated. It's very interesting, actually. It's as if they knew something had changed, or maybe just a stressor forced them to pupate. And then these beetles, there must be over 1,000 in here easy. They've been stressing too, because as you can see, they constantly move. They just keep moving, so these guys are probably highly stressed too. So basically, to finish what I've done, this beetle drawer, or egg drawer, actually, nursery, whatever you want to call it, now needs the adults. Now, there's a lot of them laying on their backs. I'll flip them over. Just can't do it with the camera here. Yeah, look at that. Some of them get flipped over just by being walked on. So these guys will disperse pretty quick, and they'll go hide. I do have some bright lights on them right now, so the first thing is to just go hide. And then they'll start mating, making eggs. About 8, 10, 12 weeks from now, I'll start seeing baby worms, maybe even some big worms, and then I'll take this whole drawer and dump it into the new worm drawer. Okay, so now this is the worm drawer, and what I normally do in the worm drawer is just keep some of these egg crates stacked like this because the worms and the beetles will crawl up in them. Yeah, and it makes it really easy to harvest them. As a matter of fact, all those guys right now need to be dumped into here. They're amazing hiders. I mean, I really thought I got a good deal of them, but they really know how to hide in this little substrate. And they play dead too. There's a lot of dead looking ones in here. Most of them are dead. And I'm going to leave them in there on purpose because this whole substrate used to be my egg drawer, right? So a lot of these carcasses may actually have little tiny baby worms in them because the baby worms will crawl in and eat. And so I don't want to throw away the carcasses here until this drawer moves on. A couple of weeks from now, then I can start cleaning out the carcasses because there won't be any baby worms in there. So there you go, 2 drawers. So the actual adults of the darkling beetle are the beetle. This is the adult stage. I often have to catch myself because sometimes I want to call the worms adults. Like that's a pretty good sized worm. You want to call him an adult, but he's not. He's just a worm. He's a grub. He's the baby stage. Look at that. These guys just hide everywhere. Oops. So I use the tongs. I'm not afraid to touch these things. It's easier to use tongs to pick them up and transport them back and forth and all that kind of stuff. I kind of think of it as a game. It takes a while. You have to be real patient when doing it this way. When I clean out the drawers, I like to get everything. I like to save everything I can. So I work pretty hard at it. So now I have a clean mating and egg nursery drawer and a lot cleaner beetle drawer. I mean, yeah, a worm drawer. I can't ever get this straight. So the worms that are left that I actually don't feed tonight, I'll just dump them into the worm drawer, and the rest of them will pupate and the cycle will continue.